Good evening, everyone. This is Nivedita, Domain Head of Web Development. Welcome to today's session where we'll be dealing with CSS. Our teammate Venkatraman will be introducing you to CSS. In case of any doubts, our chat session will be active. You can post them there so all your doubts can be clarified. Over to you, Venkatraman.
Yes, thank you, Nivedita. So I welcome all of you to the session on Introduction to CSS. My name is Venkatraman and I'm one of the core member in DSC Andhra University. So in yesterday's session, we learned that HTML is used to structure a web page and its content. And today we'll learn about CSS, which helps in designing and styling the website. But before I move on further, I want to show you one site. Uh, I want to make you understand the importance of CSS. So here we can see the website of Amazon.com, right? So this is what it looks today. But what if, see, this is one of the top e-commerce site in the world. But what if we remove CSS and see how it looks? It looks like this. Just imagine yourself buying from this website. Would you buy it? Just compare this site with the previous one. See here, everything is perfect. The spacing between the components and the background is everything is perfect, right? It's user friendly also. But if we remove the CSS and see, it's see even though it has the same functionality, here you can search all the departments and also here you can search the item. But here this is not, but here we can see that it's not user friendly compared to this. So from this only we can understand the importance of CSS and why we should learn it. So so for this session, what my goal for today is, I want to help you understand basic CSS properties, and in this session I would be using Ripple IT. It's a free online IDE. I will show you. Yeah, just go to ripplit.com, repl.it.com if you want to code along with me. So what my agenda for this session is, first I'm going to present you basic CSS properties, in which we will be talking about color, size, padding, margin, etc. Next we will discuss about designing the text. We'll discuss about text height, text width, position, alignment. And lastly, I would like to discuss about responsive designs, where we'll be discussing about flex, grid, and also media queries, which basically means is there are different screen sizes, right? The mobile has a different size and the laptop has a different size. So we have to make sure that our website looks perfect in every device. So we'll learn about in the third section, responsive design. So if you're all ready, let's continue the session. Yeah, is my screen visible, right? Reply to one.
Yes, Venkatraman, it is visible.
Yeah. First, I want to show you the basic properties of CSS like color. So for that, I'll write just a H2 element with some text in it. Yeah, this is what it looks when we run it. But what if, since it is in black color, I want to make it into some color like green? How would we make it? So we can use CSS for that. CSS has a property called color property. We can use the property to change the color of the text. So Before going into this, I want to tell you that there are three ways to add CSS. So the first one which I will be talking about is inline CSS. I will show you the other two in the coming in the coming like in the coming. The first one is inline CSS. Here we will be just making uh, just enter the property name first. The property name is color and write the respective value to it. Suppose I want to change this to blue. So this is how I would do it. You see it, right? The color of the color of the text is changing. So this is called as inline CSS. So what happens in this is, even if I add another H2 element, it doesn't affect it. Even though both are H2 elements, the using inline CSS, I can only target a specific element. So what if I want the DSC AUC text also in blue? So here I have two possibilities. I can just simply copy paste this. See, this would be in blue, right? But don't you feel this code is redundant? So instead of this, what we can do is we can use internal CSS. So in internal CSS, what we do is we add style tags in the head and we use CSS selector to target the element. So in this case, I have H2 element, right? So I would make like this. So instead of writing it two times, I just make this one time. It still remains same, right? So we can reduce the line of code using internal CSS. This is what is known as internal CSS, and the previous one which I told you about was inline CSS. Let me write here. Yeah. So these are comments in CSS. This is how you put comments in CSS. In HTML, you do it this way. I hope you all know it. So the next property I will be talking about is about classes in CSS. See, I have I have two HTML elements, and let's suppose I have a paragraph element here. Let's suppose this is expression on CSS. Let me put it this way, and I will also make a H1 tag. See, this is how it looks. See, if I have two H2 elements, I can simply use H2, right? But what if I have two different elements? I have a H1 and a P, but I want both of them to be in green color. How would I do it? One simple way is I'd use two different things uh, like this one. This would change them both of to green, but this is redundant. I don't want this. So instead of this, CSS has a concept called classes. So using classes, what we can do is we that can it can be used for reusable styles. Okay. So first we have to declare a class. To declare a class, what we have to do is we have to before the name of the class we have to mention a period. I'll name the class to green text, and I will make the color to green. So if I have to change any of the element to green, simply instead of writing the whole style expression, what I would do is I would simply add this class. So how, how we add classes, we'll just write class equals to and class name. Here, when writing in the HTML element, we don't include period. We only use it in the declaration. See, it's still same, right? I removed the 4 lines of code and I made it just 2 lines, and it's still same. So this is what class does in CSS. So the next property we'll be talking about is font size. See here I can see this. The paragraph one is the font is it's very short. Right? I want to make it large. So CSS a property called font size, which helps in increasing the which helps in increasing or decreasing the font size of the text. So let me make another class. Just make it to large text, and I'll use font size. I'll just keep it some arbitrary 32 pixel. So pixel is the unit of the size here. And one important point here is, if you want to add 2 or more classes to a single element, what would you do is you just separate with them with a space. Okay. I want see green text is already there. I want to also add large text. So I can just simply give a space and I write the second name of the second class. See, the size is increased, right? This is how you do it. So this is what font size does. Font size increases or decreases the size of the text. The next property we'll be talking about is font family. See, CSS has a different font, different styles of font. Okay, so based on what website you are using to make it more eye-catching, we use different font family. Let's suppose I want to use intro to CSS to monospace. So monospace is one of the font family. I'll show you how it looks. See, this is what monospace is, and there's also another thing known as sans serif. Like there are many. You can search it on the internet. There are many font families. This is one of the style of the font. Okay, monospace is one of the style. So before going to the next topic, what I would do is I would just add an image to make it more understanding. You all know, right, how to add images. We'll just use source tag in place of file name. And here we will just add some alternate text. So since this is a car image, I'm just adding a car, and image is self-closing tag. So here we are able to see that, see, this car image is more than what our screen size is. So we are not able to see it completely, right? So for this, CSS also another property. We can size our images also. So CSS has a property called width to change the size of image. Here, I'll just make it to some 400 pixels and just see if it suits. Yeah, it suits perfectly, right? We can see the whole image. So width, and there is also a property called as height. It's just the same. If I have to add some like 300 pixels, it's the same. So it's not that only images have the properties width and height. Even we can change the dimensions of paragraph element, h1 element, h2 element. But I would tell you in that in the later in the coming after, because for that we need to learn about borders first. After telling borders, I will tell you how to change the dimensions of paragraph and p tag and h1 tag. So until now, it's clear, right? We use width and height to change the dimensions of image. We use color fonts to change the size of the text, color to change the color, font family, just use different font styles, and that's it. So the next property is CSS border property. So using CSS border property, we can add borders around our elements. So CSS border property has three other properties known as border color, border width, and border style. To just show you, I'll just show you with this image. Let's say we need a border width of 5 pixels, and I need a border color of, say, red, and border style. I'll just make it solid and just run it. See, we can here clearly see that we can add borders to our image, and it's not that only for image. We can add for paragraph. We can add for everything. But before moving on to that, I would like to show you what's border style here. See, solid just gives you a perfect continuous border. If I just, there are many, you can just search on the internet. If I use dotted, it will give you some dotted this way. Okay? So there are many ways. So instead of, so there is also one more shortcut for borders. Instead of writing 3 lines of code for every time we want to add a border, there is a shortcut for borders too. What we can do is we can just write 1 line of code. First, we'll mention about the border width, then we'll tell about the border style, then we'll tell about the color. This gives you the same almost. Let me comment this out and I will show you. See, it gives me all, the same like the same one, right? The previous one. See, let me add the border this border thing to my p tag, okay? To my paragraph one. I'll just copy paste this one. See, here one interesting thing we should note is, see, since the sentence completes only up to here, why when we write border it occupies the whole thing? Because CSS takes everything as CSS thinks everything as a boxes, okay? So this is a block level element. Even though this completes only up to here, the CSS will think this whole as a box. So we can add we can change the dimensions to this element too, like the previous one. For the image we used, right? For the image we use this thing. So we can use the same thing to our p tag. We'll see how it changes. The height becomes 300 pixels and the width is 400 pixels. You can see it, right? The total height of this block is 300 pixels. This is, we can do the same with h1 and h2. The reason I added border is to make us more understanding. Okay. Now I will just remove this. So the next property is about background color. See, one, we understood about changing the color of text we using color property. But what if I want to change the color of the background? See, here I don't like white, so I would like to use some other color. What I would do is, see, since this whole page is known as body, okay? This whole is a body element. Everything is there on only on body element. So what I would do is I would change the background color of body, then it would automatically change the whole page, right? I would use CSS selector body, and I would the property name is background color. And for Azure is basically light blue. I'll show you how it looks. Just wait for a moment. Yeah, the background color changed, right? It changed to light blue color. So it's not that only we can change the background color of the body. We can just target any element. We can target H2 element. We can target the background color of paragraph. If I want other background for paragraph, what I would do is I would use the background color for paragraph. I would use let's say white. See, everything for everything it's blue, but for the p tag it's white. We can select our own element and we can just add the CSS property to it, and it will just apply it. So before moving into the other topic, I would like to tell you other important point also. Like CSS, there is also other selector known as ID. But what was the difference between ID and class is the ID is similar to class, but unlike class, it can only it can be only used to style a single element. Okay, for class we can just use for any element. For ID we can only use it for a single element. But mostly we don't use IDs to style in CSS because IDs are mostly used in JavaScript, which we'll be talking about in another session. Uh, they are used in JavaScript to select the element and perform operations on document object model, which we'll be talking about in the other session. But let me show you just how it looks. I just type uh, like for class we use period before a class name. For IDs we use this thing before the ID name. Let's make it to ID1, and I'll tell font family to sans serif. Now, if I apply this ID to any element, the font family of it changes to sans serif. But I can only apply this to only single element. Okay. So if I apply this to intro to CSS, this is same like class. Like in declaration only we use that. While using it with the HTML, we just only write the ID name. See, the font family changed. This what ID is. So the next topic is about padding and margin. So what's padding? So padding in CSS is a property. It controls the space between elements content and the border and its border. So what it typically means is, see, just take this paragraph paragraph block. So what padding does is it either decreases or increases the space between this the text and the border. Okay. So I'll show you with example. For paragraph 1, I'm adding padding to 10 pixels. So what it does is it increases the space between this T and the red color border. See, the space increased, right? So when I use 10 pixels, it assumes for the all four sides. If I have to be specific about which side I have to add a padding, I can just simply use. If I want to add a padding to the left side, I can just simply make it more. I can write like padding left to 10 pixels, and it just only change the left side. Okay, it doesn't care about the other side. So similarly, if I want to add padding to the top, I can use the same thing like this. It's similar. If I for bottom, if I have to change the padding for the bottom, I just use padding bottom, padding right, padding right. But this is redundant, right? There is a shorthand for this too in CSS. So what we can do here is we want to add different amount of padding space in four different directions. Just remember clockwise direction. The first thing supposes to be the top one. The next thing supposed to be on the right side. Let's suppose I want to add 14 pixels, and the bottom one I will add more, and the left side too I will add more. Let's see. 10 pixels corresponds to the padding to the padding top. This one padding right, padding bottom, and this padding left. Let's see. Sorry, I have to change this left right. I have to remove this. Yeah, we can see this, right? See, there is a 10 pixel gap between the text and the border. there's more gap between the left and bottom one. You can see this. So this is the shorthand for padding. So the next property we'll be talking about is margin. See, padding, what it does is it gowns the space between the inside text and the border. What margin does is margin controls the space between elements border and surrounding elements. Okay. So if I want more space from CSS here, what I would do is margin top, and I would just set the specific value to it, and it just comes bottom. Okay. I'll just show you. Like this is same. Okay. The padding and margin are almost same. Same like padding. There is a shortcut for margin. The first value corresponds to the margin top. The second one corresponds to the uh, margin right, and the next one margin bottom. Uh, I'll make it to 30 pixels, such that there will be more gap between the image and the key block. Okay, and for here I'll just type some 5 pixels to make it more understanding, but just increase it to make it to 70. Yeah, we can see this, right? The space between the paragraph block and the image block increased. So this is what margin does. So what padding does is padding gowns the space inside, and the margin, what it does is it gowns the space outside with respect to the other elements, like neighboring elements. Okay. Like if you want to be more specific, like we only want to add margin to the top, then we can just like the same for padding. We can just use for margin also. We can just be specific like margin top, and if you only want for margin top, we just write this. And just ignore the other things. Okay. Yeah. So until now, this is what basic CSS is. So here we learned about colors, background colors, font size, font family, borders, padding, margin, classes, IDs, and changing the size of images, blocks, everything. So until now, if you have any doubt, feel free to ask, unmute yourself, or just keep it in the chat box. If you don't have any doubts, I'll just move on with the other topic.
Yeah, we have a question here. Is the CDN topic completed? No, Monica, we'll be looking at that topic once the hands-on session starts. Like when we'll be creating a website in the tomorrow session, then we'll be looking into that.
Yeah. So I will continue since I see no doubts. So the next section, what we'll be talking about is designing the text. So far, we have been looking about different properties, but here we'll only concentrate on the text part. Okay. So in this, we'll be talking about text height, width, position, alignment, etc. So typically, we see that mainly the titles are generally present in the center, right? So in CSS, there is a property called text align, through which we can make the text. We can either make it to left, right, or we can also make it concentrate in the center. So here I'll be making this. Let me just wait for a second. Uh, I had this mistake. I used class instead of ID. Okay. Uh, so we'll be making this intro to CSS to be placed in the center. Okay. So I used ID1, right? So here what I would do is just write text align and just write the value to it and just put it. Just came in the center, right? So we can just make it. We can use text align property just to align the text. There are other values like there's some other values you can check into the internet. So also there are some small CSS properties which I would like to tell. Which I would like to tell. So in CSS, what you can do is, if you want to make a text bold, what you can do is just simply wrap it in around the strong tag. Okay. If I have to like suppose I have to make this CSS word. I want to make it. I want to make this bold. So just uh, enclose it in the strong tag and just run it. It becomes bold. Okay. So similarly, there are some other CSS properties to underline and to strike off and to also make the style italic. We have many properties like that. Like if I have to strike off, let's suppose if I have to underline this intro to CSS, how would I do it? I just use U tag. I just enclose it in the U tag. Yeah. And the next thing is how to make text italic. I want to make BSAUC to italic. So I would just enclose it in EM tag. Yeah, you can see it, right? And lastly, if I want to strike it off, how would I do it? If I want to strike the CSS word, just enclose it in the stack. That's how we do it. The next thing we'll be talking about is positioning. See, yes, I already said, right? I already said in previously that CSS treats each element as a box, and there are three ways total, like how we want to position the element. So the first type is relative. The second absolute fixed. We use them based on our need. The first I will tell you with example of relative. Okay. If I keep it to if I keep CSS position as relative, what it uh, what it does is it compares it with the neighboring element. So if I type uh, top some pixel, so what it does is it moves 30 pixels away from uh, top. It moves 30 pixels away. Okay, so since CSS is a block, it moves 30 pixels. Yeah, it moves right. But what if I keep it absolute? See, like, did you guys understand what it did? In case of relative, what it did is it in case of relative, the CSS moved relative to the current position. But what happened in absolute is it moved relative to the body. Like it doesn't care about the neighboring elements. It only moves relative to the body. It is 30 pixels from the body in the absolute. But what if I keep it relative? It moves 30 pixels from the neighbor from its relative position, from its previous position. So there are many like top. We can use also we can use many left, right. But I'll show you the relative one. And also one important point is in case of absolute, what happens is the surrounding elements doesn't care about this doesn't care about this position is equals to position absolute element. Okay, so they act as if this element is not there on the body. But in case of relative, it's not like that. If I want to move 30 pixels away from the left, I would use left 30 pixels. it moves related to moves current position. So the same is with right and bottom. Uh, I already said about absolute, right? What happens in absolute is it compares it respective to the body. So if I keep it to absolute, it only thinks about the body. It doesn't care about if there are elements in it or not. It just moves 30 pixels from the left and 30 pixels from the top. This is where it's finally this is where it situates. Okay. So there is a other type, the third type, known as fixed position. We generally see it in the like mostly all websites, right? In e-commerce websites, what happens is when we scroll down, the menu always stays there. The menu doesn't get scrolled up. The menu gets locked. It gets locked even if we scroll it. So if we want to use that functionality, what we'll use is we use fix. If we use fix, so even if I scroll this thing, the uh, the element is always in its same position. It's 30 pixels from the top and 30 pixels from the left. It doesn't move. But in absolute and relative, it gets changed its position. If you scroll it down, it just moves up. So this is the third type position, and also uh, there is another topic called float. So we can use float property to position the element. If you use, let me make, I will add border to the CSS, the CSS too, so that we can understand it. Yeah, I will add this class to this. See, there are two block level elements. So what I would do is I just reduce the width to half of what it's now. Yes. So we generally come across this websites like if you see like if you think about Amazon. See, here what we see is, see, every component is by side, right? Here side by side, and if the space complete, it moves to the next one, right? So they are by side with some space. So we want to use that functionality here. How would we do it? So we can use float for it. So I will tell you it simply. So if I use float left, what it makes is it moves that element to the left side. If I use this to same thing, it both will come. Just wait for a second. Yeah, somehow this looks like some like this. Just wait for a second. Yeah, what float does is it just positions the element. Okay, it positions the element to the left or right based on your value. Since I placed left here, it comes to the left side, and since I placed right here, it moves to the right side. If the screen size would have been larger, they would have been counted side by side. Since the width is higher and the screen size is less, we are facing this problem. Okay, so this what float does, and The next thing is text transform property in CSS. So let's suppose I want to make this text to uppercase. uh, uh, we also see in some sites, right? Like even if we type it in the lowercase letter, when we press enter and it gets submitted, it goes in the uppercase format, right? So how can we do it? We just use the CSS property called text transform property. I just go on with this last text class. Yeah, here I would use transform. Yeah, this got the case got changed, right? Like similarly, you can do it with the lowercase too. Like if you type here lowercase, you can initialize the first letter. You can do all kinds of things. Just we need to like look at the values, and that's it. Next, what we'll be talking about is font weight. So what font weight does is it tells you about the boldness of the text. Okay, if you want thicker text or thinner text. I want to make this as thicker as this one. See, this is thin, right, compared to this. So I want to make this thicker. So what I would do is go to p tag, just write font weight, just give some value. This doesn't take pixel as a value. It only takes some number. See, uh, the thickness of the text got increased. Similarly, we can make it thinner too. Just change the value. Yeah. Um, this is what about font weight property. So here, up to this, what we learned is we learned about uh, we learned about making text bold. We learned about underlining. We learned about striking off. We learned about making the text italic. We learned about text transform, font weight, positioning, flow property, and also text align property. Right? So the last section is responsive designing. For this, we generally see it, right. The viewport of every device is not the same. Like the laptop and the desktops have larger size than the phone. So what if we want to make a different website for each device, for each specific device? So what we use is media queries. So media queries are introduced in the latest version of CSS, that's CSS 3. And media queries consist of media type, and if that media type matches the type of device, then the styles are applied. I'll show you how a media query works. Until then, if you have any doubts, feel free to ask. Yeah. So here I made a media query. So inside media query, I mentioned max with 100 pixels. What it means is either 100 pixel or less than 100 pixel. It can't be more than that. If it's more than that, then the styles inside this media query won't be applied. Okay. Let's make it to some 300 or something like that. And just for demonstration, let me change the body. Uh, uh, what will change? Will change background color. We change background color to white. If the size of the screen is 300 pixel or less, then the background color changes to white. Okay, this is just simple demonstration. If I change it, yeah, you see it, right? Like I think this is the break point. I think this is 300 pixel thing. If it moves more, if it gets lesser than to it, the background color changes to white. Okay, but one thing we have to remember here is the image is still the same, right? Like the if we decrease the size of the screen, the image we can't see the whole image. So we have to make image also responsive. How can we make image responsive? Just to make image responsive, just make the max width to 100% and change height to auto such that the ratio will gets maintained. We'll see how it. Yeah. Now if I decrease the size, yeah, it's working, right? So if I decrease the size, the photo we are still able to see the complete photo. It's responsive. The photo is responsive. The size is big, doesn't happen anything. But if I decrease it, the photo becomes responsive. This is how you make the photo responsive, and this is how you make the device-specific websites using media queries. This is a simple demonstration. The last topics are CSS Flexbox and CSS Grid. So before these topics, if you have any doubts, just please free to ask or just put in a comment box. Are you guys listening to anything? Just please respond anything. Right? Unmute yourself. Free feel to unmute yourself and just talk something.
This media query is a bit confusing for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll just repeat it. Yeah. So what happens here is, so what's media query is, so the screen size is different for different devices, right? So what you would do is, if the screen, if the size of the screen, if the width of the screen is, so here I wrote max width 300 pixels. I can write here min width 2. What min width, what this means is 300 pixel or more, right? So if I have a screen more than 300 pixel, then the style inside this would be applied. Just uh, just imagine this is a live site. This is my own site, and I will show you one thing. Yeah, I will show you without this. You just comment this out. Yeah, this is how my site looks, right? Now if someone is viewing it some a phone with less width, this is how my website looks. Uh, if they decrease the like size decreases automatically, right? Now if they look it in the phone, my photo is just incomplete, right? We can't they can't view my photo completely. So how can we make our website such? No, if they look it in the laptop, it's completely fine. They can view my photo completely. It would be good. But what if they view it in the devices that has less width? They can only view the part of it. They can't view the whole thing, right? So in this case, what we do is we use media queries. So what media queries does is they it's just like if else condition in the normal programming. So in media queries, what you do is here you type max with 300 pixels. So it means 300 pixel or less because the width can't be more than 300 pixel. If it's more, it doesn't get applied. So just think it as a if statement. If the max width is 300 pixel or less, these styles get applied. So what are the styles inside it? I just for just demonstration, I just changed the background color, and I made the photo responses such that even if they view it in the devices with less width, they can view my photo completely. Now, if I run it, now unlike the previous one, now if I just if I decrease the width of this, I can view the full image, right? So why this happening is this condition is getting satisfied. 300 the size of the screen is 300, the width is less than 300 pixels. That's why it is getting implemented. We can also verify it using background color white. The background color is getting changed to white, right? So we can say that this is getting implemented. So media queries are basically like if else thing in the normal programming. If the width of the screen matches to the width specified in the media query, then it gets implemented or else not. I hope it's clear.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, adding to what Venkatraman said, basically we use media queries to change the styling code, that is the CSS code, according to the width of our screen. So basically, when we view these days we are viewing our websites mostly in our mobile phones, right? So depending on the width of the screen size, we have to change our CSS styling. So basically, our desktop or laptops, their screen will be around 1200 pixels width, and in our mobiles, we'll be having it around 400 pixels width. So when the screen size reduces to 400 pixels width, what code should be rendering? Like what should be the margin or padding? That particular set of code will be under the section of @media max with 400 pixels in that way. So basically what this code does is the image, when the screen width is less than or equal to 300 pixels, that image width will be set to its max width, that is 100%. And proportionally, the height will be scaled to auto. And to make things simple for development, what Bootstrap does is it has pre-written code, and all this code is assigned a particular set of classes. So when we import the CDN into our styles section and then directly write the class name into the tag which we'll be using, we can directly remotely access the particular style which we need. And this thing we'll be looking at in the hands-on section in the website which we'll be building tomorrow. And the same functionality can also be accessed using flex and grids. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Karan.
Yeah, any more doubts, Monica?
No, can we set see range like for devices which are like not mobiles, not laptops, for tablets, like they're in the middle of it, laptop
Yeah.
device.
The
Is there any kind of
yeah, we do have a range. The range generally lies between minimum width of 20 pixels and maximum width of 1000 pixels.
like how to give them?
Like it goes generally. See that thing, Venkatraman. Can you just scroll it? Go to the media section. Yeah, there will be writing like @media minimum width as 760 pixels, and we'll open another bracket and write max width as 1080 pixels in that way. And in a minute, I'll be updating the precise breakdown points of the styling section. These breakdown points generally, we'll call them as breakdown points, which means that at which particular range of pixels we'll be having the particular style to be applied. So just get me a second, I'll be doing that. You can go ahead, Venkatraman.
Yeah, thank you. Before moving to the other topics, I would like to, initially I said, right, there are three ways to add CSS. The first one we already talked is inline CSS, internal CSS. And third one, which I will be talking about, is external CSS. Just look at our code base, like it's messed up, right? We have HTML code here, we have style. So instead of messing it up like this, what we can do is we can create a file with extension .css, and we can keep all our CSS code in it and just link it in the header section. So see here I already have a .css file .style.css. So what I will do is I will not include the style tags. I'll include everything other than it related to CSS, and I will just paste it here. Yes, I did it. Then I will remove this style, which we no longer needed, needed, and let's see if it works or not. No, it doesn't work. Why it doesn't work is we still didn't link this CSS file with a HTML. How will a HTML know which file to include? So for that, we'll just link it in our header section. Yeah. So we just use link tag. Uh, Inside we'll just paste our instead we'll just add a file name, type with text or CSS, and just will see. Yeah, this still works. So see, comparatively, this was more understanding than the last one, because we are able to separate different code section in different files and linking them and understand. The third way is known as, this is known as external CSS. This of adding CSS. Now we'll go to the last topic, flexbox and grid. CSS flexbox and grid. Before CSS is, so flexbox was introduced in the latest version of CSS 3, and it makes it easier to design flexible, responsive layout structure without float or position properties in the CSS. To demonstrate it, I'll just make in I'll show you. So to demonstrate the flexbox CSS, two blocks. Okay, so you all know about div tag, right? It's just division tag, and I will place them in the div tag. I'll just group them. Now I need to set boundaries and background color to make it more manual. Just wait for a second. I'll just write it. Yeah. So after writing all the code, it looks like this. So I did nothing. I just look at this HTML code. What I did was I added three div tags and I grouped them together in the other div tag, and I just specified a specific ID to each of them. So, so what's the use of CSS Flex? So as I already said, what CSS Flexbox does is it helps in making uh, flexible responsive layout structure easily. So to first to first make it to first use flex structure, what we need to do is we need to type we need to use this thing. We need to mention display property. We need to set it as flex. So I'll just comment this out and I'll just show you. Yeah, initially it looks like this. If I even remove this thing, yeah, this looks initially like this one. But if I add displays, if I set it to display flex, it becomes as a row. So why it happens? So the default flex direction property for CSS Flexbox is row. So we can set it separately too. If we set, since we have flex direction row, it's in the horizontal thing. We can also set it to column, make it this way. So I'll show you just how flexible it is. So why we use it? So what's the use of running it? See, even if I compress it, it's automatically it's responsive, right? It just shrinks and it expands. Like it it makes it easier to make responsive sites. The same thing here, flex wrap. It means flex. If I just make it to wrap, what happens is the black one comes down. Just wait for a second. The width is set to 100%. That's why it's no. 50. Let's see. See what we saw here is like if I keep here no wrap, what happens is they all come in the same alignment. But if I keep it, but if I set it to wrap, what happens is if there is an extra element occupying more width, it just comes down. It just comes down, and there are some like there are properties like this flex grow 3 it tells about how much to grow when expanding with the screen size. If I said flex grow to 3, it means the box one grows three times the size of what the other box are growing. Similarly, there is a property called flex shrink, I believe. Flex shrink does the same. If I set it to 3, it means it shrinks 3 times more than what the other blocks are doing. So this is what just a brief thing about flex, and the last thing is grid. So there is a difference between grid and flex thing. So in grid, what happens is it's a two-dimensional thing. Like we can make tables out of it. It works on grid layout system with rows and columns. So it's similar to this. Instead what we do here is instead of display flex, we use grid here. We use grid and just we'll comment this out. Yeah, flex grow and flex shrink is about. Wait, I will show you. Wait for a minute. Yeah, did you see it? Yeah, no, I'm telling about flex grow only. Like see here, since flex grow is 3 here and flex shrink for box 2 is 3, you can clearly see it here. If I just expand it, look at the rate of expansion of this red thing and blue thing. You can see clearly, right? The blue thing expands more than what red thing. How much expansion did this red block happens, right? So shrink is the same thing. If you like, let me keep your flex shrink to 1. If I keep flex shrink to 1 here, what happens to red one is, if I just compress this, red compresses 3 times more than what blue what happens with blue. If I just compress it, look at the blue side and the red one. The red gets compressed more than what blue is happening. So it's like mostly. Wait, I'll just share your link such that it will be more understanding. I'll just refer pre-code camp. You'll have a detailed explanation of everything there related to flex grow, and yeah, yeah, hope you understand. Thank you. So the last thing is grid. So grid, you just change the display to grid instead of flex, and I'll just comment this out. Everything is same for grid. See, I made here five div blocks, and I enclose them in a separate div block with a class container. What you can see here is we can make here columns also. Uh, See the here. I hope you all can see it, right? The grid template columns. If I have to make a column, I just simply add the width of the fourth column which I need, and it becomes so grid and flex are same. They are used for responsive sites. They are just used to make it more useful. And everything is same. Grid template, column, grid template rows. Here you can see repeat thing. Repeat thing is used mainly for instead of writing here every time, like mentioning it every time. What I can do here is just repeat 3, count 50 pixels. It means like I want to make 3 rows with 50 pixels height. Why I'm using height is we are using rows, and row only have height. So the grid gap is here we can mention about the gap which I need between rows and gap which I need between columns. If I just comment this out, you can just clearly see there will be no gap between the blocks. See, everything is fixed, right? So if I remove this, like we can have gaps, we can just have spaces between them, and that's all. Uh, Is there anything? I don't think. You can just all refer these things in Freecode Camp. And yeah, this was the last topic. Thank you all. Signing off, Venkatram. If you have any doubt, just please free to ask.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Venkatraman. Guys, the chat section will be active till 7:25. You can post all your doubts and they will be cleared by them.
Yes, Monica will be providing you with the link to Discord server. Kindly wait a minute. Monica, you can just go through this link, and that's where we have all our social media handles updated. So kindly join our Discord channel. You can also post your queries in the respective domains of DSC AUCE. We'll be available 24/7 to answer your queries.
Okay, do you have to choose our Discord server button? Like I opened that link, but
Yeah.
what is?
Do you have Discord installed in your mobile phone or laptop?
I have it in my mobile, but I'm opening the link in laptop. Sorry,
Okay,
sweet.
kindly try it in your mobile phone too, so that you can just directly accept the invite and join in our Discord channel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, if you have any doubts in general, even you can ask them now. We have 2 more minutes. Thank you, Monica, for attending the session.
Thank you.
So that's all about today's session, guys. In tomorrow's session, we'll apply all the knowledge which we learned in the HTML and CSS sessions, and we'll build a simple, cool website. Do attend and code along with us, okay? And today's session is is available in YouTube, and the link is also updated in our Discord server. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.